This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
Improving health is about so much more than just losing weight. But I realize weight loss might be the goal that brought you here to the Begin Within podcast. That's why I wrote my latest book, 5 Ways to Stop Wrecking Weight Loss, to reveal the 5 areas that I see are most overlooked by the people that I work with who want to lose weight. Each one of the chapters in this free ebook describes that specific area that you need to focus on to improve your health and get great permanent results. And it also links back here to episodes of the podcast where we've had experts on the show talking about that specific area, so you can benefit from those previous episodes while you're learning about how to maximize the results that you're after. You can get your free copy of my ebook, 5 Ways to Stop Wrecking Weight Loss, by going to beginwithin.fit/ebook or going to the link in the show notes. Now is a great time to do a little multitasking while you're listening to the start of this episode. Head over to grab your free copy of my book, 5 Ways to Stop Wrecking Weight Loss. If you missed the URL, here it is again, beginwithin.fit/ebook, or there is a link in the show notes for you. Grab your copy, and now let's get on with today's episode. My guest today is Brad Williams. He is a personal trainer and business owner from Orange County, California, and the host of the Over 40 Fitness Hacks with reference to 40 years of age. So if you are with both me and Brad in that description, that you are either 40 years or older and working on improving your fitness, then this is definitely a place for you to be today, because he is going to give us some of those fitness hacks that he has discovered and that he shares with his clients and his podcast listeners. Here are a few things that I want you to listen for. There's a few little themes I'm going to draw attention to. Things that I heard in his description of those fitness hacks. Here they are. Number 1 is this idea of tweaking along the way. You'll figure out exactly what that means when we get there. But with reference to exactly this, self-experimentation. We're going to talk about that. We've talked about it before on the show, and we're going to get Brad's take on how that applies, in particular to different diets that you might try. We are also going to talk about micronutrients and their importance. And then we're going to talk about the concept. It's a concept that I call a stretch day, but he's going to talk about how he applies it to his clients. And I'm not talking about stretching your muscles. We're not talking about the physical exercise. We're talking about trying to do something that is way more than what you typically do in order to learn more about yourself and your own process to health improvement. Here's my interview with Brad Williams.
My background with my dad being a medical doctor, mom being a nurse, I was always kind of into fitness and sports. And just after school, I kept it kind of vague with a business major and various jobs. And I ended up with my brother just saying, you know what, I really like personal training. I started doing that. And I just want to go for it and be the gym owner. So for the last 12 years, just ups and downs of being an entrepreneur, business owner, and brick and mortar, being super expensive, high cost, and got some investors to believe in me. And we bought a couple gyms. And at one point I had three gyms, had probably over 60 trainers, all independent contractors, not employees. And I was personal training clients myself. And then just, in the last 3 years, just some bad business decisions, bad business partners. The Gavin Newsom in California passed that AB5 law, which made it real hard to hire independent contractors and not make them employees. So that was kind of beating me down. We lost one of the gyms; it just wasn't profitable. And then COVID happened. I'm sure that affected you too, Nate. But all of us had to figure out online training, all that kind of stuff. So quickly
Yeah.
started doing that, and I actually started the podcast Over 40 Fitness Hacks, and was really loved doing it. I didn't put too much effort into it until about a year ago, and basically started winding down my gyms. I only have one gym, personal train, handful, probably like 10 to 15 clients right now, and just more helping my wife out and just putting my focus more on the podcast, because I feel like I'm more passionate about it. I can help more people, and in my gyms, I was kind of more of the over 40 personal trainer. That's just what we got, and that's who I want to help, because that's about the time the body starts really deteriorating. So there's my last 12, 13 years.
It gets tougher after 40. Yeah, for sure. Do you mind me asking, how old you are?
I'm 42.
Okay. So you're living it now.
Yes.
Having to make the changes and the adjustments.
Oh yeah. And I've had some freak accident, moving heavy equipment, and tripped and blew out my L5S1. Had nothing to do with ever any of my perfect form lifts or anything like that. Just a trip, and basically threw me into surgery. I've tried everything else too. So that really hits home to me too. All my clients with lower back issues and all that, and I've had to overcome that. But I'm in that personal trainer mindset that even though it's this hard at 40, I refuse to quit, and I refuse to give up my social life. That's my other tagline.
So tell me about that. Tell me about social life. What does that mean when you say that?
So I kind of coined myself like a lifestyle trainer, not just a personal trainer. There's the bodybuilders, the the models, people with the perfect diets, and mine's like, no, all my clients, they said right up front to me, we're not messing with all that. We just want a little help. We're fine with just some simple body toning. Just give us some fitness tips or hacks that we can still do what we love doing. Yeah, we'll ease up on some of them if you tell us to, but as long as we don't have to give them up. So that's kind of what themed my podcast, and for myself too. I have a wife and child, but I still like going out and having fun on the weekends and drinking a little bit, and not eating the best food. But I have my program Monday, of fasting a little bit, and Monday's got to be the best workout day to start the thing, and I've just learned a system that by Friday I'm perfect personal trainer body once again, and ready to go for the weekend.
The ebb and the flow of life. Awesome.
Exactly.
So yeah, you mentioned your podcast a couple times, and usually I'll wait till the end and then ask about that kind of stuff. But I know that's such a big part of what you're doing, and I love the theme, fitness hacks. What is it? Fitness hacks over 40?
Yeah.
Over 40 fitness hacks.
Oh, it's over 40 fitness hacks. Yeah.
Okay. So, can you, I guess, tell us a little bit about it, but I would love, if you don't mind, to share some of the big hacks. Would you be willing to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my show, I do like 1 week where I just go for the good stuff, like just the hacks, what I'm doing, what's happened to some of my personal training clients, get good questions from them. And I've got little cool answers for hacks and stuff like that. And then another week I'll pull on a guest on my show and, talking to all sorts of different health and wellness experts around the world. So it's kind of a cool flow of week in, week out of fun and educational. But just off the top of my head, just for the over 40 person, like some of the biggest hacks is fasting has been one of the hugest things, even for me, to like keep this weight off, especially if you're unwilling to go on the perfect, hardcore diet. And my thing has always been, there is no perfect diet. A diet is something that works for you. So if you find that fasting doesn't work for you, that's out. If you want to try keto or don't like keto, that's out. Or, Mediterranean diet, whatever. We find one that works for you, and then we start tweaking. That's why I call my hacks. So for just me personally, over 40, man, fasting just at least doing the intermittent fasting where you eat in shorter time windows, give your body a longer break of fasting. That's just game changer. Then I started messing around with longer fasts, maybe once a month, you work up to it, but basically I started doing the 36-hour fast, and it gets easier and easier and easier. And man, it can wipe out, 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of, whatever you're doing for, especially the holidays. That's why I just did an episode about that. And then you can go back to normal. And if you're doing good, then you don't have to worry about it, just intermittent. But that's been like my number one thing that I've been doing.
Interesting. Oh, I'll just stop you for a minute because I want to talk. It's something we talked about before, but it's the mindset that you just talked about, Brad, that idea of like tweaking it along the way, or I guess I've referred to it as like self-experimentation.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like that's one of the things, like that's one of the hacks. Like, I guess how important has that come to be for you and for your clients, especially after 40? I'm 40, by the way, myself. I don't know if I told you that. So
no,
I'm in it.
Excuse me. But just being a personal trainer in general, like self-experimentation, I feel that's why people pay us as, personal trainers in the industry, that we're always looking and trying out new stuff, because that's where our clients are going to come to first. They see something on a TV show or in the magazine, then they bounce it off us. So we better be at least familiar with it. But I love, trying everything. I've tried every diet, every exercise program. Then as you get a little older, we're over 40, it's a little bit less of that and got to start really focusing on things. But, that's why I've had the clients I've had all over the years, because they trust you, and, and I won't push something on them. I whatever works for them. That's just kind of my hack. So we, big thing they're coming to us for is, building muscle, because muscle helps keep, body fat off the body, and the accountability, and then make sure they don't get injured. I mean, that's the main reason, but they expect, and I want to give them all these other reasons and value to come back to us. So That's been my philosophy.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Thanks for letting me put you on pause and going back to that. Now, any other hacks? We got the kind of finding what works for you, or the self-experimentation.
Yeah.
What else you have for us?
Yeah. So another hack, and then also through self-discovery and talking with other guests on my show, how important potassium is. So a lot of people, I know I get my minerals, or I take a vitamin, which who knows if that vitamin's even getting assimilated in the body. You hear all these stories of, x-rays showing the vitamin going through the digestive tract and not even getting picked up. And also your body's not going to pull everything in one shot. So how do you look at how much, sodium, magnesium, potassium that you're doing? Okay, well, you look at the back of labels. But what I've started discovering, and especially using diet trackers like MyFitnessPal and things like that, they show like, the main ones like carbs, fats, proteins. They don't show all the other minerals sometimes. So I have to educate some of my clients that on MyFitnessPal, you have to find the, 8-ounce ribeye steak. And then there's always a bunch of different options. You have to find the one that shows how much potassium it is, because all meat and vegetables have potassium in it. But they'll show you the sodium, the carbs, the fat, the protein, and none of the other vitamins or minerals on there. So another cool hack is MyFitnessPal now starts charging you for everything, so I don't even use it really anymore. A cool thing to use is this website called eatthismuch.com.
Okay.
And it is nasty how much information they give on everything. A cup of spinach or a cup of cooked spinach, because there is a difference on all the minerals and vitamins in there. So what was cool is I started challenging my clients, besides tracking all your protein and carbs and all that, start tracking your vitamins and minerals just once, just what you do on a typical perfect day. You don't have to do it for the whole week, just one day.
Yeah.
And make a graph, and then do your magnesium, your calcium, your potassium, your sodium, all your vitamins, anything you can get on there, and go Google the RDAs, whether or not you believe that the RDAs are what they're supposed to be. Just at least do the RDAs, because those are pretty much the minimums. You'll be shocked at number one, the potassium, because in our typical American diet, we're just not getting enough. So that's some of the cool hacks I've learned from other, guests on the show. And since then, I've, upped my calcium, magnesium, potassium, and unreal results on like my blood work after like 4 months. So it's, just how far you want to dive down the rabbit hole with fitness. And if you're listening
Yeah.
to podcasts like ours, obviously people have an interest in this, and it's harder to stay healthy and fit. And, we were playing the long game too of making it to our hopefully hundreds. We'll see if that happens. But you got to start worrying about this kind of stuff. It's not just alcohol and smoking and blood pressure. It's all these other things you have to be watching out for.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the hacks there is I would call it like micronutrients, right? We got the
Yeah.
macros, the carbs, the protein, fat, but then also the vitamins and minerals. You mentioned potassium. Is there and how important it is? I guess I'm you got me curious on what are some of the
Yeah.
things that you found, and even maybe with the clients that you're working with, what are some of the benefits of focusing on that mineral in particular?
Yeah. So potassium, number one, because when you do that challenge I just said of your micros,
Yeah.
that one probably will come stand out as the lowest, most pathetic one of what you're supposed to
Huh.
have compared
Okay.
to your RDA. So they call that one the master mineral because that's kind of the electrolyte balance that plays with sodium. So, you can't have one offset the other, or else you'll have, if too much sodium, you'll have high blood pressure. So, push that down, push potassium up. And potassium works with all the electrical systems in your body. So if you want to be running at optimum levels, you need that to be at a higher level. And an easy way to check that is your blood pressure. So a lot of people over 40 have that high blood pressure. Well, that's why we got to start worrying about that. And you make that easy switch. And usually foods are better than supplements. So if you can, do your research and look for higher potassium foods, you can do this totally by just your diet, and then just you feel better, your blood work will come back. Usually your doctor will check your calcium, magnesium, and potassium with creatinine and your cholesterol and everything, and you'll be amazed at just a few months what that could do. So I
Awesome.
challenge all your audience to track that for a day.
Yeah. And I love that concept. We talk about that too with our academy students is we call it like a stretch day, but I feel like that's like just track it for a day. Like you don't have to do this forever, but just put a little extra effort into your health for one day and see what you learn about where you're at, and what small adjustment you can make after that. I love that you have your clients do that as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
And just the easiest ones, just for your listeners, it's, avocados, bananas, and coconut water was always the easiest one for me. Like it's smack packed with potassium. So
Okay.
easy. It's cheap enough. But yeah, just Google it and look up the highest foods. There's always little Google images will show you the charts of everything, and, just kind of go from there.
Gotcha. Awesome. And then food sources as much as possible before worrying about other supplements. Makes sense.
Yep. And then one thing too that, I kind of knew, but I also learned the hard way is for potassium, they do warn you to watch how much you take in any given moment, because you can start to feel like heart palpitations because it is, adding more, charge and current in your body. So if you start feeling like that, you can't just take the full RDA recommended for the day in one hit. It's got to be spread out perfectly throughout the day, and you'll know just by the feeling. So just
Interesting.
issue that little warning out there for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. And I would, like you said, check with your doctor, right? If you have
Absolutely.
concerns, if things have been a problem before, or just to make sure you're taking the safest course forward, have them checked on that, and then find ways to add some more in if it's been deficient. Awesome. Let's do this only because I want to keep getting hacks from you, but I'm running out of time.
Yep.
What is the best way for people to follow your work, Brad?
Yeah, so just wherever you listen to your podcast, Over 40 Fitness Hacks. I have a website, over40fitnesshacks.com. And then on Twitter, Over 40 Fit Hacks. Twitter always makes you do a shortened version of that. So And then, yeah, just, since we talked about the potassium, I highly recommend people listening just to that episode. I did it probably April of last year.
Okay.
It's just called Potassium, the Master Mineral. So, very eye opening.
Cool. Thank you. And lastly, I'll put you on the spot just a little bit and ask if somebody who's our age or older
Mm-hmm.
wants to start taking better care of themselves. They want to improve their health, their fitness. From your perspective, and in your opinion, what would be the best first step for them? What would be the first priority for them to take care of?
Well, I think the first step they've already done is listening, to shows like yours and, doing what they can of their own research. But the biggest thing, especially for an over 40 individual, is we need accountability. Even
Yeah.
myself, trainers need trainers too. I go to a place just to get out of my gym and have someone else watch over me. And it's like a cool high tech fitness gym. But whether that be, get online coaching or go to a physical therapist or a personal trainer, like you got to have some accountability or we just can't do it. Over 40 is hard, man. I know the audience agrees with me on that.
I love it. Over 40 is hard. Yes, it is. Brad Williams, thank you so much for being here on the podcast with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nate.
There's a link in the show notes waiting for you to click and connect with Brad and follow his work. One thing I want to revisit that we talked about that was so valuable to me and a nice reminder. It's something that I talk about, oh man, I feel like at least on a weekly basis with one of the students in our Habit Academy. Because we talk so much about small steps, baby steps. What about Bob, right? Baby steps around the room. But we talk about tiny, tiny habits, tiny steps that you can take. And those are the ones that end up being the most valuable for us in the process because they're ones that we can fit into our life. We can feel motivated that we're making progress. They're easy enough for us to incorporate them in without feeling overwhelmed. Tiny, small steps tend to be the most effective when it comes to making changes. Research shows that. But Brad talked about the concept, and he did it when we were talking about the micronutrients and potassium in particular, he mentioned. But he recommended he'll ask his clients just for one day to track those micronutrients and see where they fall and learn what they might do in order to optimize that area of their nutrition and thereby benefit themselves in terms of their health. And it reminded me of, and I mentioned it in the conversation, the idea of a stretch day, not with reference to an exercise like stretching, your hamstrings or hip flexors, but with reference to doing something that's a little bit out of the ordinary for you. It's a little bit, it's big, right? It's a lot. And if someone was asking you to do it all the time, you would be like, no way, I just can't do that. But we do it in the Habit Academy to try something out, to see how it fits, to learn. Sometimes we know that down the line, the stretch day might actually become a normal day in the future. But we do it early in order to experiment, in order to learn about ourselves. So, as an example, I recently had a client that asked me she asked about intermittent fasting, right? Something that Brad talked about. And she said, I think I should try it. I think I should do it. I think that should be my new life, whatever. And I said, you know what? Maybe, yes, maybe. But why don't you just try it? Like, just say you're going to try it for a day. See what you learn. See what happens. See how you feel. See how you feel the next day after you did it. Just try it. Track it as though it's 100% an experiment, just so you can learn about it. Sometimes we just jump in, right? We hear something and we're like, oh, that's it. That's the answer. That's the key. That's the thing. That's the life I need to live now. And we jump in and we try to do it all at once. We try to change everything. We try to fit ourselves into the cookie cutter that someone else, handed us, and it doesn't work. And we can feel very frustrated. We can feel like we failed. We can feel like we let ourselves down. We let other people down. We can feel hopeless, dejected. We could feel like giving up entirely in this whole thing of improving our fitness. But when we view it as an experiment, when we view it just as one day, just as a learning piece, a tool in the whole journey, it has a very different feel to it. And failure isn't even something that comes into that discussion, because it's just an experiment. We're just seeing what happens. So the action step that I have for you today is to think about your own journey right now and consider if perhaps a stretch day would serve you. This is a day where you go all in one area just to see what happens, right? If you want to work on improving water, for example, you calculate how much you ideally should be drinking, and then for one day you're like, I am going to hit this. If I do nothing else in terms of improving my health, I'm going to hit this number of fluid ounces. Or it's a week, maybe it's a stretch week. You say, if I do nothing else this week, I am going to get these 3, 4, 5 workouts in. But as far as my health and fitness this week, that is what I'm going to focus on. Just take a small amount of time and try something different. Try something new with the expectation that all you're going to do is learn. You're going to see how it feels. You're going to see how you do with it, how you might use it in the future, just to see how it fits. You're kind of just trying it on for size to see how it fits into your life. I would love for you to accept that as your assignment from me for this week. I would also love to know what it is that you're working on, what you're stretching forward toward in that stretch day or that stretch week or whatever it is. You could please message me on Instagram at Nate Slager, or do this. Take a screenshot of yourself listening to the show and post it to your stories, and make sure that you tag me in it, Nate Slager, so that we can start the conversation there. I want to thank you so much for listening to the show, for making it all the way to the end of the episode. I appreciate your time and your attention and the energy that you put into the show and supporting it. It means so much to me, and I can't wait to talk to you again here on the Begin Within podcast very soon.